Alright, hello everybody, welcome to KEM Cup. Today we have a very interesting match. We are seeing Anthony2308, also known as Costa Rica's #1 4-key player, against Ellis Miller, a very strong player that used to be in the United States World Cup roster. Very interesting match. Also very close when it comes to seeding. Seed 13 versus seed 20. I am 2008 and commentating with me is Epic Mensu.
Yo. Yeah, this does seem like a match that's definitely on paper and on track to being one of the closer ones we've had in the winners bracket for Rana 32 alone. I mean, Anthony and Mitter's track record when it comes to Surim definitely goes without saying. These are both strong forces, and the fact that they're only facing immediately in Rana 32 is definitely quite the signal. Like, this is definitely quite early than what I was expecting, and seems like
Alright, since we're back, and it does seem like Miller has won the roll 97-34. And as always, the person who wins the roll has the advantage of choosing the order of how this match would go. And the Miller looks like they'll be going for the first ban, so Anthony first protect, second ban. Let's see how it goes. I'm actually very curious how the players will decide. And it looks like Anthony will go for Rise for Protect, so maybe Anthony just preferring the Rise side of things as overall.
Alright, so Protect and ban out the way, but it seems like we are not with the right setup here. Okay, okay, we do apologize for that. There's a lot that's actually happening on with the stream itself. I mean, it's only just the first few minutes of the match, so hopefully everything should be resolved shortly.
And everything seems to be working just now. Miller protecting Rise 1. So we're seeing 2 Rise protects, which is very interesting. First ban is Ellis Miller. I'm actually interested if there will be some kind of very funny dynamic going on where like both players are like protecting Rise and also banning Rise just based on the comfort of the maps. Sometimes it happens, it's very rare, but actually it does happen. Ellis Miller banning Rise 3. We'll not be seeing... Oh, I cannot say that now, I'm very sorry. It's a very foreign title to me.
Which one? Nekopara?
Yep, that one, Rise 3.
It's literally like you pronounce it like that really weird, like, hentai game, except you just don't pronounce the VH at the end of, like, both the 2 individual words, I guess, but... I mean, I don't know why the artist, like, named it that way. Like, it's a really funny title, like, knowing the context, but...
Yeah, it is so funny.
Yeah. Alright. Okay, so Anthony in with the ban. Gonna be Ellen1 that goes off the board. Peach Pit and Cyanide is not gonna be played in this one, and honestly makes sense. I mean, this is a map that is pretty much hard to play because of the role control aspect of it, so it makes the most sense that Anthony would want to avoid that against the likes of Mitter, perhaps.
Alright, and Miller choosing their own protect as their first pick. We'll be seeing EOS. Rise 1. I'm actually very excited to see because those 2 Rise protects and this 1 Rise ban just leaves some like very little wiggle room. They had all the LN, I mean not all, LN1 is banned, but 2 LNs are open. We're seeing also 2 hybrids open, of course the EX maps as well, so it is very interesting to see how the players will fare in the Rise category. 'Cause I think it's like the most important when it comes to like when they're all pretty much equal on the LN and hybrids, just based on how they just left it alone. I think Rice is very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for both these players in particular being very equal when it comes to Rice. It makes the most sense that I would assume both players would want to go into that category with fair caution, because especially as we can see, it does seem like Anthony does have a bit of advantage on the likes of the LN category. However, Mitter, I know for a fact, is also fairly strong within a lot of maps as well, especially over in the Rice category, as much as Anthony is. Both players being fairly well-rounded, so it's really just a matter of who's going to be able to get the better end of the stick when it comes to at least one of these maps, and it does seem like with Rice 1 being the first pick, makes the most sense. So yeah, just trying to start the match on a bit of a straightforward note. Pretty much the simplest pick you could go for, more or less. We'll just have to see how both these players do.
I mean, it is a speed pick after all, and from my own experience, speed picks sometimes can be actually tricky at times, not as straightforward as it seems sometimes. If they're like very, very dense, it's very easy to get like some very unfortunate misread, but it seems like both players turning out very, very strong, very comfortable when it comes to this BPM. Very, very similar actually. Accuracy is just a small difference between the two. They're just all a bit ahead by like 1/10 of a percentage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing to note is that I've seen the performances on last week's slide. There is a pretty fair discrepancy between the scores of Anthony and Mitter on this map, where there was a bit of a difference that was about 5,000 points of a differential. So the fact that it's somehow this close on this round is definitely going to speak volumes as to what options both players can realistically go for, as it's going to be only a few... It's going to be sub 2,000 points in the favor of Mitter for the time being. Going into the back of the chart, albeit this is also one of the shorter maps we have in the map pool as well by extension. So overall, seems like both players have really good accuracy, but Anthony has dropped somewhere among the way, and that's exactly what's going to give Mitter the early advantage. Although it's a very unsafe one as well, but because of the fact that it's so close as well. I mean, not as close as we've seen in other matches, but it's definitely one of those differences that can easily be delegated, that can easily be destroyed the minute someone makes a miss or something.
Already seeing like the last quarter of this song, and Mitter actually gaining accuracy ever so slightly at 99.89. Was a bit lower before. Anthony is still very close behind at 99.76. Even if Mitter like finds a very nasty accuracy drop, or maybe like even I think a clean miss would have made it so Anthony will get the point, but Mitter just looking too consistent on this map in particular. Just very nearing the end of the song, and the lead is slowly increasing to Mitter's side, almost at 5,000 points currently. Last patterns are missing 2 FCs, but Mitter with the upper hand when it comes to accuracy and ratio.
Absolutely, and fairly dominant scores from both sides. Anthony not seeming to be as inherently accurate as Mitter was, but the fact that this was fairly close for the most part, it was just really the differential of a few thousand points that really separate these two in terms of accuracy and also just the general ratio. Mitter literally getting over half of what Anthony got, minus those two greats as well. So pretty much a bold statement for Mitter to make first thing going into this match. And, you know, look, you ignore the top. It's basically 1-0 in favor of Mitter. We're not using the score tech system. And yeah, LN2 is going to be the next move on the board from Anthony here, and makes the most sense. There is pretty much a fair... Okay, how do I say it? Both these players are pretty much good when it comes to LNs, and especially as we've seen in Rana 64, they have some very similar performances over on maps such as Vanguard 2, for example. So the fact that we could potentially see a fairly close match on this map in particular could definitely shake our expectations for this map alone. I mean, it's a lot more conventional than Vanguard on the contrary, but it's still very similar because it still features very similar patterning, albeit obviously not polyrhythmic to any degree whatsoever.
Since we'll be seeing Anthony pick LN2, Hurricane. It is a song I wouldn't expect to be mapped as LN Density, usually. Just, you know, Hurricane being this kind of like twin brother to Volcanic, which is like very, very known for being a Dan map when it comes to speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally like the only reason why it's known in Mania, because of Dan's, and that's it. Like, it's literally Delta. So
yeah.
I mean, I know this song because of Stupid Man's iteration of Volcanic, which was basically on Hurricanic, so basically the sister song of Volcanic. However, it does seem like, for some reason, Stereotype Foil would be really funny to just map as an LN Density. I mean, sure, it makes sense. 190 BPM, and there's still a lot you can really work with it because of the kind of nature you get with this map, where it has a blend of coordination and density mixed in together. But the fact that you're able to blend those two together and is just somehow very competitive because of the song structure and just how the parents are addressing this definitely makes this a lot more of a risky pick than usual for either side. And we can see it with how equal both players are in this right now.
Both players are pretty much equal, but what you've seen like from the last map they have played, in the beginning is quite important, and Anthony actually dropping just a very tiny bit, Miller just very, very close behind. Anthony finding a few 200s, making the score lead pretty much get almost equalized, I'd say. This is a very, very short pick, as only at 2 minutes long, already halfway through the song, and both players still holding full combos, amazing accuracy. Miller actually being the first one to find the drop on this map, in this match actually. The lead already gone all the way up to 7,000 points and slowly rising because of the combo advantage Anthony has. And it's looking like a very comfortable win for Anthony right now, unless something very unfortunate happens on these very interesting anchory, like long Jackie LNs.
I mean, you've got this section to look out for. This is the one section where you have to really watch yourself on, and as it stands, no one's really going to be faltering on it at all. There was some misjudges being bled here and there, but that's easily negated by the misjudges of one other player on the board. So 9,000 is in the favor of Anthony for the time being, and probably going to remain that way as there's not much left of the map. Only a few seconds, and it's basically done. Final hands, final Suedo core jacks in the form of LNs, and you've got yourself a 900k served up fresh from the hands of Anthony himself. 43 perfects, 10 greats. The great ratio is the exact same, but it's just the perfects that spell a completely separate story here.
That is absolutely true. Also worth mentioning that Miller did find those 2 misses, unfortunately, just giving the combo advantage to Anthony, and just Anthony being able to hold amazing ratio, of course, the full combo. But it is Miller's pick this time around, and let's see what they choose. Just based on this performance alone, I think Miller would like to stay away from any LNs or hybrids.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a plethora of options on the board that you can realistically go for. I mean, so far we've seen Rice 1 and LN2, so I would definitely imagine that both players would definitely have found some kind of information to work with on both ends, and perhaps for Mitter being the next in line to pick, I would imagine they would feel at home with the Rice category alone. So I probably would expect that Rice free... No, I mean, anything in the Rice category can realistically be an option. Maybe Rice 4, but no, it seems like it's going to be EX1 instead. Okay, that's a bit of a bold move you're making there.
Yeah, but it's true. It is the very difficult Rice pick after all. I mean, Miller did show quite a dominant performance when it comes to ratio on the Rice 1 pick before, but this map being quite different, it is much longer, and of course the patterns are much more complicated than the Rice 1. So we'll see how Anthony holds up on like more technical kind of patterns, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. With a map like this is 4 minutes and 14 seconds of being able to at least try and do what you can. to ensure you get the best accuracy possible. And especially for this one being on the longer side of the regular pool, this is definitely something that would serve as one of those consistency checks that would matter for a lot of players, especially with this one having to be a little harder and than the other picks in the contrary.
It is a very... I don't have to explain this, but it's a very... ballsy pick, actually. And picking EX1 as like your second pick is very, very interesting, especially after coming after a Royce 1 pick. Picking EX this early on is something I would not expect, because usually, I mean, if I was the player, I would have picked EX a bit later on, even if I wanted to, just because you get to, like, the longer you play, the less nerves you have, and, like, the more warmed up you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, pretty much 4 minutes, as I've mentioned. A lot of really technical Rice patterns that this map has to offer. I mean, this is Satori Maiden doing what they can with a Camellia song, so you may as well be rest assured that this is going to be, you know, something to witness to a degree. I mean, you get some of these flams, you get some of these jacks as well that are mixed in between. Anthony bleeding out some grates here and there right off the gate as well, and that's, although it doesn't seem like anything's really going to be negated for the time being, because everyone's literally right in the middle. Only 200 points is literally the biggest score we've seen from either side, and it keeps flickering between the two. Mitter in with the first miss, however, so that's going to shift things a little bit into the favor of Anthony, but who knows for how long, really.
That is true. It is the EX pick, so FCs are very hard to come by on this expert pick. Anthony holding on very, very strong, actually. 99.81, still amazing accuracy, and of course the full combo. Already at the 5,000 point lead over Mitter. Mitter did find this one unfortunate drop, but it looks like he's recovering quite well after that.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, especially when it comes to longer maps than what else is actually addressed in the map. Well, pretty much the best thing you can... pretty much the best course of action to really go about such situations in a map is to really just try and focus on recovering, because that's basically more important than being able to at least maintain a really high combo than anything. Like, as long as you can at least try and get back as best accuracy as you can, or to try and perform the best you can despite the miss, however, that's practically the best thing you can really do. And we pretty much sold out with Mitter until that next miss came out, as Anthony is going to punctuate their score even further going into the back end of the chart. There's still a lot more that the map has to offer through a lot of fairly odd patterns, I want to say, respectfully, as there is a stare down that is shared between these two now.
Both players being able to see the scores during this break, and Mitter just knows now that they're behind and they need to really log in when it comes to that combo, because Mitter's accuracy is actually amazing. Recovering accuracy very, very well after those misses, actually being ahead of Anthony right before that second miss, but unfortunately just dropping it again. So Mitter's recovery is very, very good, but Anthony just holding full combo still. Combo gaming sometimes is king in this game. This is one of those cases.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there isn't really a better way to put it myself, such as it does seem like there's another miss from Mitter and another one to go on top of that as well. This honestly kind of makes me question the credibility behind this pick alone, because it does seem like it's potentially just the fatigue and also the patterns that Mitter has to manage with that are just really more on the abrasive side of things, with how there's a lot of jacks and then there's a lot of pretty odd bursts that are kind of dressed one after another, all of which in perspective Anthony is managing very well, and clocking in at 4 minutes for this length alone. This is essentially marathon length for when it comes to how rankable a map is. And going into the final course especially, you have even more jacks that are thrown in right into the fray. More jacks, more anchors, just basically more things to let you choke on, and Mitter is the one choking on all that in particular.
Mitter finding those few unfortunate drops really just puts the nail in the coffin. 18,000 points behind it is quite a lot, and I don't think there's a very slim chance Mitter can make a comeback, but Anthony just looking too consistent on this map. 99.71 and is looking to close it with a full combo on top of it. That is correct, 990k on EX1. Absolutely amazing score. As I said, accuracy, especially ratio and the 200 count on Mitter's side, just the 4 misses and the 4 100s he found just really hurt his score in this regard.
Yeah, I feel like the main disadvantage comes from just the general stability of Mitter because I think had it not been for the 100s and the misses that Yeah.
Oh.
Let's see. Oh. All right. Okay. Okay,
All right.
that's truly amazing.
All right, we
Anthony
got to
won
see.
that.
Yeah. And just like I said, Anthony having the upper hand when it came to ratio and accuracy, but the difference is much smaller when it came to ratio other than LN2, because in LN2, Anthony had like, if I remember correctly, like 200 less 300s, and now this time it's about 30, so this difference is much, much smaller, and the score gap was mainly based on the miscount from Miller.
Absolutely. So, fairly strong score that we can see from both players. I mean, Mitter didn't even do bad by any means necessary. It's just the fact that the misses are the ones that basically anchored down that score just a little bit more. But I think had it not been for that in particular, it definitely. I think had it not been for those misses, that could have. Okay, nice English. They could have definitely like roll things a lot closer, albeit it would have had to come down to the roll ratio alone to be able to make a difference on that note, however. So, unfortunately, those two misses would have not been able to heal the damage that has been done on the likes of LN3, as, you know, we are just resetting things up. Now, everything should be good for the rest of the stream. Thank the Lord for being real. Yay.
Yep, and it looks like we'll be seeing a Rise 2 pick from Miller, so still staying away from Anthony's Protect of Rise 4, like I actually predicted, just because Anthony is probably very, very confident in that map and his ability to get a very good score on it, so Miller might be just might want to stay away from it. I mean, Miller did ban Rise as well, so he pretty much shrunk his picks as well just by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that everything's all said and done, it does seem like our next pick is going to be none other than Rice 2. So, pretty much still a lot that we have to go for. This was Mitter's pick following off of the 3-in-a-row victories that Anthony has accumulated. So, still going to be quite a lot. And especially for this map, I do kind of wonder how Mitter's going to be doing on this, because we saw for a fact that they struggled being able to at least full combo the likes of the EX1 pick, but that's probably just because of the role pairing alone just being like difficult and kind of less I don't know, conventional, I suppose, whereas this one's going to be a lot more comfortable for the likes of Mitter, especially going through a lot of these trails, a lot of these anchors. There's still a lot that can be worked with on this one. However, the main issue is that Anthony is also just as good as him on these patterns. It's just going to have to come down to the ratio. Oh, okay. Lovely.
Yeah, Miller is going to find the first drop of this pick. I mean, you really got kind of used to it. You're seeing the EX1 misses, you're seeing the misses on I mean, we didn't see, but there were misses on LN3, but Miller not being able to hold combo quite as well as Anthony does, and Anthony will get the lead of like 3,500 points, which is quite a decent amount actually. Just putting it some kind of safety net on his point right now. I don't think Anthony can afford a miss, but a few 200s would not hurt his score all that much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with a map like this where you're paired up against someone who's just as good as you in accuracy, albeit it's really just the game that really is put into play here, where you just need to avoid missing as much as possible. That's exactly what Anthony is succeeding in right now, and that's the one thing that Mitter's going to have to try and negate in one form or another. However, the only way that this can realistically happen is if Anthony also takes a miss of their own. So, going into the back end of the map, there's still a lot of room for mistakes to come about, and I would definitely imagine Anthony would definitely be prone to some of them, if anything, but the likelihood of that, as we've seen from the likes of EX1, there was a tremendous ratio there between the two, which Anthony didn't win, but the misjudgments were basically what sold it.
Oh, he's right, and Anthony actually building accuracy back up. Anthony gaining accuracy despite the length of this map, admitted only adds more misses. Unfortunately, the lead pretty much doubled just because of that miss. Already seeing the last quarter of this song, and Anthony looking just way too consistent yet again. Anthony has not found a single miss in this match so far.
That's honestly kind of cursed to think about. Just the fact that one player has been so dominant that they are literally spreading that throughout the match like butter, that they are not someone to mess with going into this tournament. And it's going to be difficult because of the fact that, you know, you have to really sell yourself going to a tournament like this where there's so many like-minded players that are just as good as you even. So the fact that Anthony is quite literally showing that worth and proving it in fashionable fashion the Rise 2 here against Mitter, and also various of these other picks prior, is definitely the sign for Mitter that they're going to have to really be careful for their next picks. 360 perfects is difficult to fight, even when the fact that Mitter would have struggled to win, even had it not been for those misjudges, is a scary thought.
That is true. This is a second break point for Anthony right now. Mitter in a horrible situation. Anthony with 1 point left until the end of the match, and he is on his pick right now. So Anthony very, very comfortable right now being able to pick and actually no Ellen's led, but being able to pick a hybrid or his own Protect of Rise 4 just leaves him a lot of wiggle room. Also EX2 that I completely forgot about, but it is also an option, just in a very comfortable position where he just has a lot of different options to choose from, and there's all of them he is quite confident in.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much. I think at this point, I do wonder what Mitter could realistically, or what either player could realistically go for next, because Mitter is pretty much with their backs to the wall in terms of being in the winner's bracket. If Anthony wins one more map, then they're going to be out right there. But Anthony likely has some ulterior motives when it comes to this final pick that they have to make, whether or not Anthony is going to be able to win that, or if Mitter is also going to have to try and win some breakpoints, because now they're basically forced to, and if anything, it's going to have to be on none other than EX2. So, okay. All right. I see how it is now.
Yep, we are seeing EX2, the difficult LM pick. Oh, again, very, very long, almost 4 minutes long, 5.7 stars. It's just, this might be a very good pick for Anthony. If Anthony can keep up the raw skill or like the technical aspects of this map, and like get like a very low miss combo or even another full combo, like the 6 full combo in a row, it is a very good sign. But Mitter also having a chance to come back if Anthony messes up even the slightest. Of course, Mitter did show some weakness on the LN side of things, but the LN3 was quite close if not for the misses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from what it looks like, Mitter is also well capable of being able to play a lens. It's just that, you know, I do kind of wonder how exactly that skill on some of these earlier LNs from the previous rat matches especially would translate into a pick like this, where, you know, it's also long similarly to that of EX1, but it's also just a lot harder to actually control, even with the breathing room they actually dealt with here. And that miss from Mitter is basically to serve as a bit of a testament to that as well. Being the first drop very early on in the map as well, they're going to have to build up to the combo cap fairly quickly if they want to be able to try and find chances of being able to take it. But unfortunately, that next miss is here to beg to differ.
Is Mitter dropping a lot of accuracy all the way down to a low 99% right now, so finding those two very unfortunate drops. Anthony's just doing Anthony things and getting another full combo so far. It's just light work for that guy.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, Anthony is pretty much no stranger when it comes to playing LNs and being a very well-rounded player as well. I mean, to their credit, Mitter is also very well-rounded as well. It's just that, you know, the thing is with a lot of these tournaments is that when it comes to pitting two well-rounded players against each other, it's going to be rest assured that both these players are going to have struggle when it comes to a variety of things, because who knows how many maps are one player actually skill capped in, and even then, Anthony's going to have to potentially struggle on some maps against future opponents as well going into this tournament, where, you know, I mean, it's not really a big score advantage by a lot either. Only 8,000 points definitely can be shrunk in just a little bit if it does come down to, I guess, 3 things on the checklist, which is what? Take a 100, take a miss, and a miss. Oh, and maybe taking another miss, if anything. But Anthony just refuses to follow that instruction whatsoever. They literally want to end this match outright whatsoever.
That is right. 0 misses from Anthony just yet, and they're actually recovering accuracy quite well. They were like at a low 99% when they first missed. Now they're all the way up to 99.33. So it is an amazing recovery, but the combo advantage and still the accuracy advantage is on Anthony's side. So it is a very bad sign for Mitter. Mitter actually adding yet another drop to his results screen. Anthony trading it, actually finding a very messy job, but it doesn't look like it's enough for Mitter to make a comeback just yet.
Yeah, it's gonna have to take a lot more from Anthony to be able to swing it right into the favor of Mitter if they want to be able to secure Signs of Life in the winner's bracket for just slightly longer, because this is a map that goes on for ages. And by ages, I mean, what, 3 minutes and 44 seconds. You get the stare down. This is literally the final quarter. This is all Mitter has to be able to try and get 1 point back. But as it currently stands, I think the likelihood of that is literally close to at least being obscured, just based on the fact that Anthony's been very consistent throughout this entire match, not being able to miss except from that one occasion, which was this map. But at the same time, this literally brings out the worst of you if possible in the early game. So it's a no-brainer that obviously, you know, both players would struggle with this, but it's just the skill cap difference between these two. That's really the message here. And Mitter with that final drop, that's basically going to solidify a 5-1 victory for Anthony no matter what. The ratio is... oh my god. Why is it so close?
Yes, yeah, the ratio and the 200 count are very, very close. Mitter actually finding 1 less 200, but a lot more missing. Of course, the 100 really hurt his accuracy. And with this map being concluded, Anthony advances in next round of Kayom Cup winners bracket. A very dominant win of 5-1 against Mitter.
Absolutely, very close scores. I think if we were to isolate the higher scores, or at least like, you know, both the perfects and the greats, this definitely would have been such a close pick. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, Mitter, despite their greatest efforts, is not going to be able to try and overtake. He's not going to be able to overtake Anthony, even on the various options, even on the various cards they were dealt at the start. It was fairly good throughout the most of it as well, though. So, you know, it is kind of heartbreaking that Mitter is not going to be able to proceed in the winner's bracket. But at the end of the day, only one is going to be able to pass through. And from as it stands, Anthony is also going to be waiting in line to see who they're going to be facing between Machalos and Lasting Diarrhea in the next weekend for round 16. Whereas for the likes of Mitter, they're going to be plummeting down into the loser bracket to face ERDF Erdifs. Yeah, okay. Alright. Should be simple for them, I think.
I'm very excited to see how Anthony does in the winners bracket in the future. Their next match is definitely going to be a very difficult one. Both Machalite and Lasting Diarrhea being known to be actually spectacular all-round players, so it'll be a very, very difficult match next weekend. But the only thing we can do right now is to just wish them good luck.
Absolutely. So, yeah. I mean, I honestly don't really have much else to say besides from the fact that we still have a lot of matches going on. We've got 2 final matches going on for today in about 20 minutes. Going to be none other than Super vs Rakumi, and then Xtopes 101 vs Spaghetti. So, yeah. Both are going to be fairly interesting matches. So, yeah. I think this does it for all I really need to say on this match in particular. Do you have anything else you'd like to add on before we close off?
No, I don't think so.
Alright then. Cool. So yeah, once again, this has been Epic Man 2, joined by Titsal's Grishet for this match. We'll catch you in about 20 minutes from now. Be there, be square, and thanks for watching once again. See ya!
やめて抑えが来たら消えろ消えろ